Rick throws a folder labeled Forbidden Zones on the table. Morty looks skeptical. Rick explains that forbidden zones hide not weapons but uncomfortable answers. They land on North Sentinel Island. Rick points to the shore and says that people here have lived without a state for 60,000 years. Morty swallows nervously. Rick launches a drone and shows Morty that the islanders saw ships and the tsunami but survived. Morty, how did they know? Rick shrugs. The drone shows Sentinelese with bows. Rick tells about a missionary killed by arrows in 2018. Morty, we're not going there? Rick, no. They moved to Bosnia. Rick points to symmetrical hills. Morty, pyramids. Rick, geologists say no, but there are tunnels beneath. They descend into a tunnel. Rick shows megalithic blocks blocking passages. Morty, who put them there? Rick, unknown. Rick measures ion concentration, dozens of times above normal. Morty feels strange breathing. Rick says access for geologists was closed in 2019. Morty, official science is silent? Rick, yes. They fly to Vozrozhdenia Island in the Aral Sea. Rick, 100 tons of anthrax spores buried here. Morty is shocked. Rick shows a 2023 satellite image, new construction on the island. Morty, who is building? Rick, unknown. They fly to Australia to Pine Gap Base. Rick explains that the country's parliament has no right to know what happens there. Rick tells how the prime minister was dismissed in 1975 after trying to renegotiate. Morty, base outside control? Rick, yes. They fly to Mexico to the Zone of Silence. Rick, in 1970, a rocket fell exactly here, deviating 1,000 kilometers. Rick takes out a compass. It spins chaotically. Morty looks in disbelief. Rick shows anomalies. Radio signals unstable, navigation fails. Morty, meteorites. Rick, yes, but why here unclear. Rick speaks of ball lightning recorded in the 1980s. Morty, physics unexplained? Rick, no. They appear at the Vatican archive entrance. Rick, 85 kilometers of shelves, partly closed until 2200. Morty, we won't live to see it. Rick tells about 2023 letters contradicting saints' biographies. Morty, what else is there? Rick, no one knows. Rick sums up, 6 places, 6 types of prohibition. Morty, what unites them? Rick, pattern. We're not supposed to know everything. They open a portal. Rick, we found questions scarier than answers. Morty smiles. Camera shows a map with 6 blinking points. And on Sentinel, Rick and Morty see Indian Coast Guard. Rick, they protect the island from us. Rick takes water samples. Morty helps. In Bosnian tunnels, Rick finds pottery older than Rome. Morty, why is it hidden? Rick measures infrasound. Morty listens. On Vozrozhdenia, they find containers with biohazard markings. Rick, they didn't take everything. They put on hazmat suits. Rick scans containers, readings spike. At Pine Gap, they watch vehicles through a telescope. Rick, they're moving something. Rick tries to intercept radio signals. Morty holds an antenna. In the Zone of Silence, they find a meteorite crater. Rick, fresh impact. Rick collects rock samples. Morty holds a bag. Sunset. In the Vatican archive, they find a 15th century map of expeditions. Rick, not random. Rick photographs documents. Morty watches the corridor. They discuss why these places are hidden. Rick, we're not ready for the truth. They return to the garage. Rick puts the folder in a safe. Morty, did we learn too much? Final shot map with fading points. Voiceover, 6 secrets, 6 questions. Rick scans Bosnian tunnels with a portal scanner. Morty holds a tablet. On the island, they find an abandoned truck with biohazard sign. Rick opens the hood. At Pine Gap, they see a transport plane taking off. Rick, they're taking something out. Rick sets up a seismograph in the Zone of Silence. Morty helps with sensors. In the Vatican, they find a cardinal's letter about inconvenient relics. Rick, it's politics. Rick compares the Zone of Silence map with an ancient navigation chart, striking match. On Sentinel, islanders watch them through a spyglass. Rick waves, an arrow hits the boat. Rick repairs the portal gun. Morty hands tools. They conclude all 6 places are connected by an invisible grid. Rick, nodes. Rick finds a mention of a golden city in Brazil matching 1 point. Morty, they're connected? They decide not to continue, too dangerous. Rick, some questions are better left unanswered. They close the portal and hide evidence. Morty, will we come back? Rick, maybe. Final scene, Rick and Morty on the couch watching TV. In the corner, a folder marked, Forbidden Zones, do not open. Morty glances at it. Rick notices, not now, Morty. First pizza. Camera pulls back. Text on screen. Some prohibitions are made to be broken.